Dr. James Zender is a clinical and forensic psychologist who has specialized in working with people that have been in tremendous life situations, and he will be talking about traumatic brain injury and PTSD. Thank you.
So I really welcome the opportunity to talk to you today because I would like to see a revolution take place between the insured, the insurer, and the providers. I think often there's a lot of breakdown in communication, and if everyone works together, I think we'll achieve much better outcomes. I would like to give you some basic understanding of some of the common conditions that we see in the clinic. Anybody know who this guy is? No? Okay. How about the expression, he turned a blind eye to it? Has anyone heard that expression? Yeah. Well, this is Lord Admiral Nelson. He is the guy responsible for preventing Napoleon from invading England during the Napoleonic Wars by defeating the French naval fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Lord Nelson had sustained many injuries during his career as a naval officer. He was blinded very early in his career when a bomb exploded close to him. And back to the blind eye expression, he was in the Battle of Copenhagen, and he was always very brave. He liked to lead from the front. And his lieutenant told him that they received a signal from the commander's ship to disengage and to retreat. And Nelson, not wanting to break off the engagement, held his telescope to his blind eye and said, "I see no ship," and continued the battle and won. So he replaced his commander as the commander of the fleet after that victory. What is really interesting about Lord Nelson is the other injuries. We have concussion, we have he lost his right arm, depression, night sweats, paranoia, and he had scurvy, which is caused from a lack of vitamin C. Do you know what naval soldier or naval sailors are called? British sailors are called? Liners. You know why? Because of the vitamin C that prevents scurvy. An interesting side note is if you don't have limes, they were instructed to ingest raw rat guts. That would sometimes work as well. So you wanted to keep a good supply of limes so you didn't have to resort to the lime gut or to the rat guts. When he was recuperating, he was nursed back to health by this lady, Lady Hamilton, who was the wife of the British envoy to Naples. And Lord Nelson fell in love with her, and they had an affair, and they had a child, Horatio. Lord Nelson developed a paranoia that the Prince of Wales was slipping into her bedroom at night, and his judgment was sometimes impaired, so much so that in the Battle of Trafalgar, his final battle that defeated the French Navy, he insisted on being on deck with his full admiral's uniform, which made him prime target for the French sharpshooters from the adjoining ship, and he was shot through the spine and killed. So he also has letters after the concussion where he says, "I just can't put these words together. I can't talk or write the way I used to." Yeah, he had all these injuries, but still, he did his duty and saved England. So now we have the diagnosis of post-concussive syndrome. TBIs, we are learning more about them. See the movie Concussion if you haven't seen it. Dr. Bennett Amalu, who is featured in the movie, said recently that it's a form of child abuse to allow children to play contact sports, that the brains are vulnerable to traumatic brain injuries. So we're just kind of at the beginning of understanding that. So I won't go through that. 2.4 million people sustain a TBI in the US each year. 5.3 million live with lifelong disabilities. Direct costs, $76 billion a year. PTSD is a very common condition resulting from exposure to a traumatic event, which results in the experience of intense helplessness. We now know that The limbic system plays a major part in this, primarily the amygdala, which is an almond-shaped structure that controls the processing of emotions and motivation. And one of the jobs in therapy is to help the amygdala become quiet again, because it has become activated to the point where danger is seen where there is none. One of the most important concepts that patients find useful is the idea of the trauma reservoir. You know, we ask, why does trauma affect one person in one way and other people differently? It may be a small trauma for one, a big trauma for another. So we all have traumas in our lives. We have big traumas, like perhaps we're in a bad accident, and we have little traumas, like maybe we suffer rejection, we don't get a promotion. So each one of these traumatic events has an energy with it, and within ourselves, there's a reservoir that contains this energy. So when that reservoir gets full, it overflows, and then we get psychological symptoms. We get the paranoia, we get the anxiety, depression, and we get physical symptoms like fibromyalgia or irritable bowel syndrome. So how do we counteract this? We counteract it through support. There should be another larger reservoir drawn around that. By providing the right amount of support, we can drain off this excess energy and the symptoms can abate. Motor vehicle accidents are the #1 cause of PTSD. There's over 30,000 people killed each year in the United States in auto accidents and hundreds of thousands of injuries. 750,000 new cases of PTSD from auto accidents each year in the U.S. Over 50 million accidents worldwide. Auto accidents cost the U.S. economy $750 billion a year. So I'm going to rush through this because we do have a time issue. We deal with crises, helping people to restore their homeostasis, their balance, through various forms of support. Psychotherapy, individual and group, is a powerful form of support. In terms of understanding mental health, there's a continuum: healthy, sick, sicker, and sickest. Then there's volumes of diagnostic criteria that fill in these gaps, but this is a helpful way of understanding the mental health continuum. Acceptance is key often to restoring people to where they were. And so I want to quickly turn this over in a moment to Chris Felton, who had the pleasure of meeting through, we have a common Pilates instructor at Lifetime Fitness. And Chris was in a bad accident a number of years ago, and here he is, picture of vibrant health. So how did he get here? How did he get from that to this? And Chris is going to tell you that in a moment. Here he is with his young daughter shortly after the accident. Here he is today. I'm not sure how to activate that, but here he is getting a different perspective on this. So I'm going to turn it over to Chris Felton now, and he's going to tell you how he thought outside the box to restore his life to a really an amazing degree.
Not a care in the world, bought my Harley at 27 years old, paid cash. Guys that I worked with couldn't stand me because I was the rich kid. You know, I buckled down at an early age, and I got what I wanted. I had a near perfect life, didn't have any debt, I had a beautiful 3.5-year-old son, and my wife was pregnant and due in 8 days. I was on my way home from school from work, and I was sitting at a red light. I got hit head on at about 40 to 50 miles an hour. She glanced off the front of my bike, drove my knee through my gas tank, chopped off the bottom of my foot on the floorboards, crushing my foot, peeling the bottom of my foot off inside the boot, smashed my face against her side view mirror, shattering my jaw. Then I got hit by another car going the opposite way. So I was trapped to my bike started spinning around. Finally my femur snapped and threw threw me from the bike, and without a helmet, I flipped through the air a couple times with the bike tumbling over me, but not landing on me. Fractured my skull in 4 places, and when everything came to a stop, I was pretty sure I was dead. Heard voices in the background, could hear people talking, and they thought I was dead too, so I started talking and looking around, assessing how messed up I was. My leg was laying next to my head, my foot was peeled wide open and crushed, and I was bleeding out. And my bike was laying at my feet, bleeding out as well. Bikers here would understand it. I mean, my bike was my dream. I miss it every day, and I bought my dream bike. Had a great conversation with the first responding doctor. Told me that my leg wasn't salvageable, that the best thing to do was amputate, so signed away for amputation and transfusion. I went through 18 pints of blood the first day. I put my family through absolute hell with addiction, with violent outbreaks, just bad decisions. I fought really hard in the beginning. My biggest motivation was I had to see my daughter, who I hadn't seen until she was a month old. By the time she was 2 months old, I'd only seen her about 3 or 4 times. So my daughter essentially saved my life, and my son, he got me off the drugs, and not street drugs. I mean, my doctor became the biggest drug dealers around. I went through 3 months of absolute hell, detoxing off all my pain meds and everything. I decided that this was no way to live, and that there had to be a different way. So I started looking into holistic medicine. I looked into acupuncture, chiropractic, massage therapy, and took advantage of all of them. Fortunately, I was under the catastrophic fund. As long as we could prove that I was making progress through these means, I'm not going to sit around and just watch the world go by. I've been given a second opportunity in life. I'm going to take it. And holistic medicine has helped me get there. I'm not saying that Western medicine is all garbage. It saved my life, evidently. And I've got a lot of ongoing issues that are never going to go away as a result of my accident. But it'll be a cold day in hell before I allow those things to rule my life. And first day walking on the beach ever, 2013. First day walking on the beach with my daughter. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life, and my children are my motivation. And I mean, people really need to have a motivation to or have a reason why they're going to do what they're going to do.